My name is Maurine Orndorff. My maiden name is Ruggles, and there is a history of the Ruggles in the area. I grew up spending many of my summers on Lake Erie. My dad bought a cottage on the lake near Cranberry Creek Marina. So water is sort of in my blood, and the family history means something to me. My great-great-great-grandfather, Almond Ruggles, surveyed the firelands of the Western Reserve for Moses Cleveland. And the lake house that my dad bought when I was about 12 has a cemetery behind it, and Almond Ruggles is buried in that cemetery. I've seen some of the history about Almond and the experiences that he wrote about in his diary when he was surveying the area, and he described some very rough and wild territory in his travels. I work to preserve farmland, and I also am working with watershed restoration to clean up the water quality and restore streams in Geauga and Lake counties. My son Grant observed that my great-great-great-grandfather was opening up the land for development, and I was turning it around and working to preserve land from development. So my son, he was probably a teenager. He saw the irony in that. I wanted to tell a story to the community about my experiences during the flood of July 4th, 1969. I was 15 years old at the time. We had a house full of cousins and siblings and aunts and uncles, and we were forced to stay inside all day because of the rain. And it was a small house. It was hard to find things to do, but we were very conscious of being confined due to the weather and of the violent nature of the weather as well. We could hear the water pouring out of the marina, which was not too far from the house. It sounded like Niagara Falls during the day. It was just a constant thing. And during the night, if you'd wake up, you'd hear the roar of the creek. In the early morning of the 5th, my dad had gotten up to go to work in Cleveland, and so he was not home, but my uncle Bob was visiting us. He was there. And our relationship was unusual. He was a character, and we didn't call him Uncle Bob, we just called him Bob, and he called us crumb snatchers, which always sounded like a very derogatory term to me. So I was surprised to have him come up in the morning of the 5th to wake me up. He came up to the girls' room where we were all scattered around in sleeping bags on bunk beds, crowded into a little room, and he came to me and he said, "Maurine, I need some help." So I went downstairs, I got dressed and went downstairs, and we looked out on the lake, and out on the horizon we could see a boat. So we didn't know if there was someone out there who needed help, but we knew that the boat was adrift. So he wanted me to help him go out with my dad's boat so we could bring the other boat in. So that's what we did. We went out into the lake, which normally we wouldn't have gone out into because it was very rough and very wild. And we drove out to the boat, pulled up alongside it. There was no one on it. My uncle Bob was able to get onto the boat, and he found a key so he could start the boat up. So we turned around and headed back in. He drove the abandoned boat, and I drove my dad's boat. And I thought things were going all right till we got closer to the mouth of the marina, and it was a frightening sight, because normally the marina mouth seems pretty narrow, and you want to make sure there's no boats coming out as you're going in. But This was a different story. The water was very high. It was pouring out. It was loud. It was muddy. And it was a scary thing. So I had some experience, and I thought, well, I just need to get up a certain speed and just go with it. And so I did, and I got into the marina, and there was no harm to me or the boat, and my uncle managed just fine on the boat he was on. We later found out that the boat had come from a marina in Lorraine. So this was an experience that stayed with me through most of my life. It gave me the confidence to face a frightening experience and just go forward, go with it. And I succeeded at that time, and that's helped me with many other situations. And the fact that my uncle came to get me, I was the second youngest out of 5. I was probably the third youngest out of 12 kids there, but he came to me, and I was a girl, and he came and asked me to come and help him, and that made a big difference to me in how I perceived myself and in my development of self-confidence.